Welcome to Dispatches from Communist Canada. In this dispatch number 3, we're going to talk about how you can report a joke as a hate crime. Because, in Canada, the people who say sorry all the time, hate is just everywhere. Before showing you how to do that, let me just remind you that last week, former school trustee Barry Neufeld was ordered by the Human Rights Commission in British Columbia to pay $750,000 to the LGBTQ+ teachers in Chilliwack. His objection to trans ideology being pumped at school children, and his assertion that it is wrong for teachers to speak with young students about their sexuality got him in hot water. The $750,000 fine is even more outrageous when you learn that Mr. Neufeld lives in a mobile home. I'd like to show you in this dispatch how easy it is to report a joke you don't like. Yes, a joke. And you can use any number of online tools that municipal governments and community groups and religious groups funded by the taxpayer, how easy it can be. Hate is big business in this country. When comedian John Cleese heard about Barry Neufeld's $750,000 fine, he tweeted out, "What a pity! I'm arranging a theatrical tour of Canada this fall, and now I won't be able to risk doing any shows in British Columbia. I was really looking forward to coming." Hate to break it to you, Mr. Cleese, but you can be reported by anybody from anywhere at any time, and anonymously. That's what we do here in Communist Canada. Before showing you how to report a joke as a hate crime, let me summarize the current situation here in Communist Canada. Jokes can be reported, and I wasn't joking about that, folks. It's actually true. Now, you can report anonymously from anywhere at any time for just about any reason. You can think on a conversation you overheard at the office, at someone else's dinner party, at home, or wherever. You could be walking down the street and have heard two people chatting together and report that anonymously. And note that the criminal code in Canada, at least for now, excludes private conversations, but the bureaucrats at various municipalities are so gung-ho, they decided to add criteria to the hate reporting form that doesn't exist in our criminal code, and in fact also excludes some criteria as well. Trust a bureaucrat, eh? Anyway, some sites are created by religious organizations such as the Council of Muslim Women in Waterloo or the B'nai B'rith in Toronto, etc., and they're funded by our tax dollars. Is their data accurate? What do they do with this information? You can think on what you saw online, on social media, or on YouTube, and the person that you have reported on may never know that you thinked on them. And that's because the police and the religious organizations can just keep a file on you for future reference. What will they do with it? I don't know. Statistics are gathered up by bureaucrats and by police, and there is no oversight or analysis to confirm the accuracy of anything. Doesn't that make you just feel comfy cozy? Now, what worries me is that the government keeps using the ever-increasing hate statistics as a reason to require more and more censorship, which I'll show you at the end of the video. There's another bill coming forward that will proactively go after people. So let's take a look at how to report a hate crime that was a joke. Here we are on the reporting tool for the Durham Regional Government, and that is a municipal government that's just east of Toronto that incorporates some small towns, largely a rural area, and also a few cities. You can come to this site and report a hate incident, so we're going to click on that and see what happens and where we go. Remember, this is just one of many, many tools that are offered across Canada at many different levels of government, by community groups and religious organizations. If we look over here, they'll tell you about the types of reportable incidents. The most important one, it seems, because it's at the very top of the list, is verbal harassment, slurs, and offensive jokes. Yes, it's all lumped together, so you hear an offensive joke, that can be filed as a hate incident. Physical assault, bullying, intimidation, online harassment and abuse, they go through a number of things here, but I'd like to call your attention to something that is not in our criminal code. Burning or destroying religious texts. Yes, you are welcome at this site and many others, because I've checked a few across Canada, to report that a religious text was burned or destroyed. Now, in Canada, we do not have a blasphemy law. It is perfectly legal to burn any book you'd like. However, this has been inserted as a hurty feeling crime, and they have usurped basically our criminal justice system, because our federal government in 2018 said, no, freedom of speech is more important than blasphemy, and we struck off the blasphemy law out of our criminal code. But here it is on this hate reporting tool. Now, another thing you can see, you can press any one of these 4 buttons. And for those of you on the podcast, you can say that you live in the Durham region and you want to be contacted. You live in the region, but you'd like to stay anonymous. You don't live in the region and you do want to be contacted. Or what I'm going to press here is, I do not live in Durham region and I want to stay anonymous. So again, from anywhere in the world, go ahead and click. The hate reporting form comes up, and you can identify who was targeted. You can say myself. I'm going to say a coworker, that I overheard a coworker, but you could say yourself or a child under 16, my significant other had her feelings hurt or his feelings hurt, a family member, and you can also do other. But let's say a friend. Oh, no, I said coworker. Let's go back to coworker. Okay, and the age of person impacted, I'm going to say is 25. The date it was happening, you can list the date there. Has it happened before? I'll say no. And was the incident online or in person? I'll say it was in person. But note, you can report a hurty feeling hate crime as happening online. You can also report that you saw a religious text being burned online. Now, have you reported this incident elsewhere? I'll say no, because I haven't. And then there's types of incidents down here: verbal abuse, intimidation, bullying, etc. So you can go all the way down. Malicious complaints, that's not really in our criminal code. But anyway, what you can look at here, I'm going to say I saw a burning book, actually destroyed. Yeah, they don't even, here's the thing. They talk about burning or destroying religious texts. In Canada, since 2020, we've had 113 churches burned, some to the ground, set on fire and burned to the ground, some of them. Hardly a word, hardly gets news coverage, except in Twitter, or X, which is where I learned about some of these things. And that's tragic because, Christianity has a right not to be attacked and assaulted. So this, we know, is not about burning or destroying a Bible. I'm sure it's likely about burning or destroying a Quran. And you should not be inserting quote unquote criminal acts in the back door through a municipality. Anyway, let's go back over to what they think, what we believe motivated the hate incident here. And there are a number of criteria here: race, national or ethnic origin, religion or beliefs, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, etc. What they've excluded here is a category that is included in our criminal code, which is sex, but they've chosen to exclude it. So look at this. They've added a criteria about a hate incident, which is burning or destroying religious texts, and the motivation, they've excluded sex, which is a category and a protected category in our criminal code. What they've also done here is willy-nilly added immigration status. So if you feel you had some hurty feeling things said about you on immigration because you're a new immigrant, then you too can file a hate crime. Again, once you go through this, you fill out what happened. Let's say it was a bad joke, nasty joke, I'll say. Nasty joke about burning a Bible. Whoops. And that's all I have to say. And I understand that I can also identify if this is for my safety, but it's not for my safety. It's just an example. I would then press submit, the button submit here, and it would go to some bureaucrats during office hours who would sit there and wonder what they should do with this next, and maybe give me a call, maybe offer financial assistance, but they would collect the data. And as I mentioned, what my big concern is, this goes right into the statistics that governments are gathering up to use as justification as to why they have to censor us. We've seen this playbook before in the Soviet Union, in East Germany under communist rule, and even in Britain these days. 11 to 12,000 Brits are arrested for their social media posts. That's about 30 Brits a day who get that knock, knock, knock at their door and are met by police, sometimes up to 8 or 12, I've heard. And many more have non-crime hate incidents secretly lodged against them. Canadians, we need to get ready for that knock, knock, knock at the door. Canada is now developing more ways to punish speech. The Liberals are pushing Bill C-63, the so-called Online Harms Act. And is it really about child protection, as they say, or is it about other ways to control or suppress hurty words? Here is American journalist Matt Taibbi of Racket News highlighting what he thinks about this bill.
We Americans have always picked on Canada. We consider it sort of our birthright. Now they may be getting the last laugh on us. Our northern neighbors have drafted a bill called the Online Harms Act, also called C-63, that's making its way toward law. If passed, it will not only outlaw hate speech, it will give the government the power to go back in time and punish past statements that are still on the internet. For most cases, you'd be judged by an administrative panel, not a real court bound by rules of evidence, and they can fine you up to $50,000. Other cases carry extraordinary penalties. Advocating genocide, for instance, can earn from 5 years to life in prison. Think about what that might mean in the current context. Why should you care? In the Twitter files, we found evidence that American officials want to adopt frameworks that are more in line with foreign hate speech codes. That means there are people here who want this, or something like this. Blame Canada, shame on Canada. More on Racket.news.
So yes, you can report a joke. Hate is big business, and Canada is investing big time in hate. The Liberal government chases hate with around $500 million tax dollars set aside to help organizations gather and report hate crimes, including jokes, remember? When I asked Google to list where people could report a hate crime, I got a rather long list, and the list you see here is mostly police services, but the fact is, this list that they've provided doesn't include the many community and religious groups that encourage you to think on a neighbor or on a comedian for hurty words. Across all provinces, there are many places to report this sort of crime. And of course, there are national or federal sources too. Remember, none of the dozens of places that I just listed here include the human rights commissions that are sprinkled across Canada, and that's what got Barry Neufeld of Chilliwack his $750,000 hate crime fine. Okay, so if Canada insists that hurty words and bad jokes must be considered hate crimes, then the police and only the police should be the point of contact, not community groups, not religious organizations, etc. Sure, they can gather the data if they'd like, but it should not be folded into official statistics. Where it should be gathered up is by Statistics Canada. They should consolidate police data. That's true and accurate information, provided the police have not been going out of their way to find every little breadcrumb of a hurty feeling statement or joke. And let's not pretend that throwing millions of dollars at various groups is going to solve the problem. It hasn't so far, and in fact, it has started to make Canada look like a den of hate, when in fact, we're a really wonderful country, or we used to be. It's becoming more problematic now that we're in communist culture, but we're a group of very nice people for the most part. After digging through the dozens of websites that make up the hate crime criteria, the ones that added in blasphemy and left off criteria that exists in our criminal code, all I can say right now is that Canada's fixation on censorship and hurty word hate crimes is the joke. You either support democracy and freedom of speech, or you stop pretending you're not a communist country. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. This is Merritt Jacks from Not Your Donkey. We who are wise to the ways of communism see it building here in this cold and vast and once incredibly lovely country. Stay tuned for next week's dispatches from Communist Canada. Remember, if we don't protect democracy today, how will our children enjoy their tomorrows? Stay tuned for our next dispatches from Communist Canada coming up shortly.